Chapter 16. As I entered the office the next day, I prayed God would open the door for me to speak to Timothy and give me the words to say. My opportunity came later the same afternoon. Timothy stopped by my desk after leaving my boss's office.
"What are you doing for Thanksgiving?"
As I glanced at his handsome face with its light complexion and pretty golden brown eyes, I absent-mindedly admired the view while wondering why he was asking me about a holiday still 5 weeks away. I shrugged. Hadn't really thought about it.
"Would you and your children like to join me and mine for dinner?"
He asked, waiting with an air of expectancy for my answer. I leaned back in my chair, giving him a hard look. I don't think my fiancé would take it too kindly my sharing an important family meal with another man and his children.
"You're still insisting on marrying this guy? You know he's not the one for you."
He leaned on the half-wall partition separating my work area from the walkway.
"God intended for us to be together. Why are you being so stubborn?"
My gaze traveled from his large, manicured hands gripping the partition to the wavy hair on his head as I gathered my words. "I'd like to ask you a question."
"Sure."
Staring intently into his eyes, I laid out my scenario. Say you spent a lot of time and effort finding Ashley, his daughter, the perfect gift. Once you had everything together, you wrapped it in plain brown paper and brought it to her, anticipating the joy your gift would bring. You see, what you purchased was something you knew she'd been searching for and needing a long time, and in your mind, what was inside the package was much more important than its outward appearance. When you hinted at what it was and presented it to her, she took one look and said, "That's all right, Dad, I found my own. Mine looks much better than yours." How would you feel?
Angry? Hurt? If what you said was true, then I went to a lot of time and effort on her behalf.
He said, looking a bit angry now at the very thought of it. I crossed my arms over my chest and looked steadily at him. In a quiet voice, I said, "That's what you did to God. He tried to give you me, his hand-picked selection of a wife for you. Unlike Ashley, you knew what was inside his gift, because we'd spent time talking and getting to know each other. But like your daughter, because you didn't like the way I was wrapped." I waved a hand down my body to indicate my size. "You rejected me. How do you think that made God feel? What about me? Do you really think I don't know why you weren't interested in marrying me before?" The skin under his cheeks flushed a dull red, and he shifted uncomfortably.
"I was wrong. I know that now, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it up to you."
"I'm sure you are, but it's too late. God found someone else, someone who looks beyond my packaging to the woman inside and loves what he sees. I'm sure if you pray and believe, God will give you a wife, but it won't be me." At my words, he looked a bit wild-eyed.
"You're wrong! It's not too late! It can still work if you give it a chance!"
I shook my head. "I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Please stop calling my pastor. He's confirmed Roberto to be my husband and has given his approval for us to marry." Timothy startled, and then a look of dismay crossed his face. He took one long last look at me before turning and walking away, shoulders slumped. I sent up a silent prayer for him and let it go, pushing the whole situation out of my mind. He was in good hands, the best hands there were. God's. Another week passed of Roberto working doubles. With all the overtime he pulled, I was glad Justin decided to live with me. He'd have been at Roberto's all alone. Here he had Brianna and me. I spent a lot of time with the kids and was teaching Justin how to cook. In return, He became my workout buddy and coach. Roberto had no problems with my size, but I hated it and was putting in a lot of effort to ensure I'd go to my marriage bed in much better shape than I was currently. Justin and I had been hard at it the last 6 weeks, and the work was beginning to pay off. I didn't see much difference on the scale, but my muscles were a lot tighter and leaner, and I'd already dropped a dress size. I was firmly in a size 16, with a size 14 being my goal. I'd never aspired to twigginess and wouldn't look right skinny. Not to mention, I'd have to half-kill myself to achieve a size 8. Some women are built to be large, and based on my bone structure, I'm one of them. I accepted my limitations. My goal was to be the best me I could be. Nothing more, nothing less. Friday night, after a particularly grueling workout session, I woke to find Roberto sitting on the side of my bed. I reached out and cut on the lamp, instantly noting his expression once my eyes adjusted to the light. "What's wrong?"
They fired me,
he said, in a flat, hard voice. "What? Why?" I pushed up to a seated position and propped pillows behind my back. A glance at the clock showed it to be 2 a.m.
I fell asleep.
Inwardly, I winced. Oh. I digested that for a minute before my natural defense of him kicked in. Well, what did they expect? You've been working all this mandatory overtime, weeks' worth. It had to catch up with you sometime. It's only the grace of God you haven't gotten sick like the rest of them. The flu, swine, and regular had hit his location hard. For the last 2 months, there'd been more people out sick than at work.
And that's exactly what I'm going to tell the union when I get to them,
he said. So you're going to fight it?
Yes.
Good. I reached out and cupped his face. I'm not happy you lost your job, but I'll be glad to have you around more. I missed you. Roberto wrapped me in his arms, hugging me close.
I've missed you and the kids, too.
He gave a big yawn that showed all his molars.
I feel like I could sleep for a week and barely scratch the surface of removing this weariness.
I ran my hands through his hair and down his back. You sleeping here? He drew back and let his gaze run over my body. When his eyes met mine, there was heat and arousal reflecting out of them.
I'm tired, but not that tired. I better go home.
I wanted to hold him tight and not let go, but resisted the temptation to push. We'd have time together, later. Pastor will be happy to see you back in church.
For a little while,
he said.
Remember, this isn't permanent. It should only take a week or so, a month at the most for the union to get me back on the clock.
I hated to be a naysayer, but couldn't help asking. What if they can't get your job back?
They will.
He was all confidence. I believed him, but I'd be praying for him all the same. He kissed me lightly on the lips and stood.
I'd better go while I still can. See you tomorrow. Go back to sleep. I locked the door on my way out.
All right. Night. Love you.
Love you too.
I cut off the lamp and laid down, a bit troubled. I'd prayed for Roberto not to have to work so many hours, but this wasn't what I'd had in mind. I fell asleep reminding myself God had everything in control, and my job was to pray and trust.
I'll paint this room next,
Roberto said as he followed me into my bedroom. No, absolutely not. I stopped and glared at him. Roberto stood with his hands on his hips, considering my expression, testing my resolve.
But
I mean it. I do not want to come home and find drop cloths over my bedroom furniture. I continued to the closet and kicked my heels off before crossing over to the bed to sit.
if I start early enough, I can have everything done and put back before you get off.
He reasoned. I closed my eyes and flopped back on the bed with a groan. Ugh. No, no, and no. You've already painted the house, the living room, bathroom, and den. You're not touching this room, and that's final, I said, my gaze fixed on the ceiling. The mattress bounced as he landed beside me. His face came into my field of vision until all I could see was him.
But think of how nice it will look. Besides, you'll be renting this place out soon. Might as well let me get it ready while I have the time.
My eyes narrowed in warning. This was the same excuse he'd used to convince me to let him paint the exterior of the house, along with the kitchen, dining room, den, the main bathroom, and kids' bedrooms. He'd cleaned the yard, trimmed and pruned the trees, and cleaned out the gutters. In the last 3 weeks, there wasn't one area of this house he hadn't had his hands on, except my bedroom. The wedding isn't for another 2 to 3 months. I looked at the Caribbean blue and green sponge-painted walls of my bedroom. I'm not spending the rest of my time here looking at beige walls.
It's not beige. It's cream.
He countered. I pushed him to the side and rose to my feet, heading for the dresser to find something comfortable to change into. Whatever. We'd had this particular argument before. I wasn't getting into it again. Don't you have some things that need doing at your place?
Nope.
He leaned back on his elbows and watched me with the complacent expression of a man who knew he'd eventually win.
No sense painting when you're just going to come in and change everything anyway.
Sighing, I paused with my t-shirt in hand and cast my mind around, trying to think of something for him to do besides disturbing my sanctuary. Have you searched the web to see who's hiring?
No need, I'll have my job back soon.
As I stood gazing at him, irritation turned to concern. He hadn't heard anything from the union yet. It had been almost a month. Surely something would have happened by now if it were going to. Roberto, I began hesitantly, maybe you should look around. Put in some applications just in case.
Nina, I have faith God is going to work this thing out. Don't you?
He chided. I did, but sometimes God's definition of working things out and ours were totally different. Yes, but... He straightened on the bed and pinned me with a direct stare.
No buts. I need you to stand in agreement with me. You know God honors faith. Don't allow doubt to creep in.
Chastened, but still worried, I slowly nodded my agreement. Roberto grinned.
Good. Now go change clothes and let's hit the gym.
The groan that followed came from the very depths of my soul. God, please give this man his job back soon, I prayed. Roberto wasn't the type of man to sit and do nothing. You'd think after all the hours he'd spent working doubles, he'd be glad for the rest. Instead, he was driving me and the kids crazy, trying to find enough stuff to do to fill the hours of the day. He'd taken over Justin's role and become my personal trainer. After I told Roberto my goals, he'd taken them to heart and pushed me hard. Justin was much more lax. If I said I had enough or felt I'd done enough, he let me stop. Roberto pushed, nagged, and scolded until my muscles were quivering, screaming for relief. I don't know if it was his military mentality or what, but he took the expression, no pain, no gain, seriously to heart. The plus was I looked better than I had in years. The negative was I was too sore to enjoy it. I trudged into the bathroom to change, psyching myself up to endure today's torture session. I should have caught a clue when Justin bailed on me as soon as his father announced he'd be coming with us to the gym. The wuss. You know, Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks, I said as I put on my socks and tennis shoes. Are we having it here?
I'm not sure. My mother called last night and said they were flying in and bringing Enrico with them. That's 3 extra mouths. How many of your family are you expecting?
I did a quick mental tally. At least 10, not including us, possibly more. My family has been known to drop in and bring guests. His eyebrow rose.
Do you think this place is big enough for 15 plus people?
I thought about it and shook my head. Probably not. Not enough seats or space, even if we borrowed a table and chairs from the church. I guess we could eat outside if the weather's nice. So far it had been sunny and mild, almost hot. However, there was simply no telling what the weather would do from one day to the next.
What if we move it to my house? The boys and I can clean out the garage and set up tables inside.
I rose from the side of the bed and crossed to the mirror, grabbed a scrunchie and put my hair in a ponytail. My family will complain about having to drive so far. Besides, you have more interior space, but my house has more parking. Roberto lived in a cul-de-sac. If we used the garage, that meant his vehicle would be taking up one of the spaces in the driveway. Mine would use the other. Everyone else would have to park on the street, finding space wherever they could. It wouldn't be a problem as long as none of his neighbors had guests with the same intention. While I didn't have a garage, my driveway was a double and extremely long. It could easily fit 8 cars before anyone had to look to the street. When I picked up my keys, Roberto rose fluidly from the bed and led the way to the door. He resumed the conversation once we were in the SUV.
So your family won't come if we have Thanksgiving at my place, but mine won't fit if we eat at yours. What are we going to do?
Go out to eat and let everyone else fend for themselves? I suggested with a smile.
Nina.
He chided. It was just a thought. Actually, it was a pretty darn good idea. I considered the situation. There had to be a solution, one that worked for everyone involved. I didn't want Roberto's and my first Thanksgiving to be full of strife. How about this? I have my family's gathering Wednesday night, and spend Thursday with you and yours. Roberto drummed his fingers on the steering wheel as he thought about it.
I like the idea. But will your family go for it?
As long as there's food and plenty of it, my family could care less when it's held. They'll descend like locusts, eat everything in sight, and immediately leave to go do the same thing at one of their many friends' homes. It's the same every year, no matter who hosts.
Well, my family makes a day of it, beginning with breakfast. Afterwards, we all gather in the kitchen to help cook or simply talk while dinner's being prepared. When the food's ready, we sit at the table and eat. No one's in a rush to leave, and we all help with the cleanup.
Roberto said. The way Roberto's family celebrated sounded like the way ours used to do things when my grandmother was alive. She was the glue that held our family together. Everyone still kept in touch, but it wasn't the same. We reminisced about past holidays during our workout and planned for future ones together. It didn't make the exercise any less intense, but it helped me to keep my mind off of my groaning, complaining muscles. Later at home, after I'd showered and collapsed on the bed, I acknowledged the best thing about having Roberto as a coach was the fabulous rub-downs he gave afterwards. Deep muscle melt into the mattress massages that put me out like a light switch being dimmed. Today proved to be no different. I hummed, moaned, and groaned my approval as his hands worked me into a near comatose state. As I drifted off to sleep, Roberto whispered in my ear.
So, about this room.